So Andy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, Mastermind local Southampton,
Sure.
so the main Mastermind project. So what did you do before property?
Yeah, so I was at Southampton at university.
Yeah.
So I studied a mechanical engineering degree.
Yes.
I sort of fell into that sort of through the parents. And
I did manufacturing engineering. I have to tell you, mechanical engineering is much harder.
yeah, so it's a bit dull as well.
I didn't want to say that, but it's definitely harder, yes.
So I did the mechanical engineering, and then sort of through university, I did some work with TV companies, and I sort of fell into the broadcast side of things. So I worked for a couple of post-production companies. I did a bit with the BBC and that sort of thing. But I'm quite into technology. And so through that, I got a job on the Sky Technology graduate program. So it's a combination of sort of the broadcast side that I was interested in, but also the technology. So I did 2 years there on their grad scheme, and then I was a project manager working on their internet technologies, so things like Sky Go and Now TV.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've always been a very avid reader. And I'm sure some of you have probably read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Absolutely,
that sort of fell into my lap, and I read that, and it was sort of a combination of reading the book and working that sort of led me to look into other ways of generating income.
Okay, great. Obviously, you found PIN and Property Magic, and the rest is history. Okay, great. So why did you choose rent to rent as a strategy?
Well, we already had a couple of properties in Southampton, and we went through the whole Article 4 process and the planning permission.
And they ones you owned, were they?
Yes,
right,
correct.
Okay,
So we did buy a couple up front, and we were very aware of the time and finding them, trying to get the planning, and we were very aware that it takes a long time to do it.
Yeah.
And I actually left my job at Sky last June. To focus on the property. So it was very much around quick income, getting income in relatively quickly.
Yes, okay. And so what have you done now since the start of Mastermind up to now? Because obviously you finished Mastermind local now, but what have you now achieved?
So we've now got 6 rent-to-rents, and that's 32 rooms.
Right.
And I've got actually a meeting on Monday about another one, so they're still filtering through.
Right.
But we had a target for September, sort of, at the end of Mastermind.
Yeah.
And we went straight through that.
Fantastic.
So,
and so how much is that giving you now?
So it will bring in just under £4,000 a month.
Profit, before tax?
Before tax.
That's pretty good. Does that replace the previous income?
It does, And I'm sort of looking forward to, the next years and how now we're more in control of finding the properties that, the sky's the limit, really. Just keep going.
Okay, no pun intended, of course.
Absolutely not.
So how did you find, we've got a case study here, so tell us about how you found this particular property.
Sure, so this is almost like
it looks amazing, by the way, doesn't it?
It's beautiful.
I don't know why the landlord had a problem renting it, but it looks amazing.
I mean, it is a textbook case study in a rent-to-rent. It's brilliant. It was on with one letting agent, and they weren't doing well by the landlord. And so I went and viewed it with the letting agent and thought, this would be quite good, but it was through the letting agent.
Right.
But I also had a very sort of regular campaign of sending out letters every month. So I had the landlord letters and the letting agents, and I did both. That was in about January, and then sort of the steps were, it went to another letting agent. Yeah. So then a bit more motivated.
So there's some motivation there, isn't there? Yeah. Didn't we say that, by the way? We said if a property's not being let, the landlord might put it to someone else. So you should go to that first letting agent if you haven't already done so. Say, so you lost that property. Well, let's make sure you don't lose any more.
Yep. And then so it was on for about 2,500 for students. Okay. It was a student house. And then the price dropped, so I think it maybe went to maybe 2, 3. Then it went for another letting agent, and then another letting agent. So I think it was about 4 letting agents in the end, and it was about 2,200. Yeah. And at the same time, I was still sending the landlord letters sort of in parallel. And although I viewed it with the letting agent, it was clear that they weren't interested in actually sort of sealing the deal for whatever reason. Yeah. And so that's when I started to get directly in touch with the landlord, and we went that route.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously they were pretty frustrated.
Yes.
Being failed by letting agents. And so let's look at what you did to the property. So after and before.
Yeah. So
hardly looks like the same room, does it really?
I mean, this room, it was painting and decorating. I mean, if you can see, the furniture's the same. So we didn't need to replace the furniture, all about managing the costs. This room, we did replace the carpet, remove the cupboards, painting and decorating, and it looks a lot better.
Yeah, it does look like a hotel room now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing what things can do. Okay, so let's talk through some of the numbers on this for us then.
Sure, yeah. So eventually we agreed a rental over 3 years for 1,900.
Right.
And, you know, considering it was on for 2-2 with the students, I mean, he was still happy in terms of the service we were offering.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 1,900. The rooms, so it's a 7-bed house. They vary between 450 and 525.
Just an important point to make here. Obviously, you've been struggling to rent to students. Have you guys repurposed this?
Correct.
So
yeah.
is it now young professionals?
Yes, it's
people?
working
Yeah.
professionals.
Okay,
Yeah. So
right.
I think the whole house are new graduates.
Right.
So people have just rolled off university and they've just
Yeah.
gone into their first sort of.
And those people, they're really happy living in shared houses because sometimes shared rooms. But that's kind of what they've done at university, isn't it? So
Yes,
they're used to that communal feeling, especially if they start a new job. They're connecting with people like-minded, similar age. So it works really well.
Yeah, and one of the questions that we found with various houses was people asking, did it have a communal space?
Yeah.
And they were really keen on having the lounge so that they could do the things, on the Friday, Saturday and get to know people.
I think if people, this is your observation, if people have been to university and lived in a shared house, I think that's generally a really important aspect for them. If they've come straight from home and not lived in a shared house before, I don't think it's so important because they don't know that's what it's supposed to have.
Yeah, they really, really were keen on the lounge.
Yeah,
in this one. Yeah,
Great.
Absolutely. So yeah, the bills, this includes council tax and all the utilities. We include all the bills, so that's 710. So I mean, they are pessimistic numbers, so it's about £800 per calendar month before tax.
Okay, which is pretty amazing, right? And and of the other ones you've done, what's the average you might have had to put in to get a property going?
Maximum sort of 5 to 6k.
Yeah, so you think our guess of 5k is pretty...
It is, yeah. I mean, this one, it was a massive Victorian house.
Yeah.
So just the size of it did cause us to spend a little bit more. But yeah, generally 5 to 6 is about right.
Excellent. Okay, great. And finally, how did you find your experience on Mastermind Local?
It was brilliant. I was sort of reflecting on, because you hear other people talking, why did you want to go on it? And I sort of thought, well, what caused me to do that? And having left work in June, and then the Mastermind Local started in September.
Yeah.
Being in a place where it's quite lonely, and I think you mentioned it yesterday, that there were you can go to the PIN meetings and various things, but working from home or a home office, there was definitely a sort of, I'd like to go and be able to get in contact with more people.
Yeah.
We knew the hosts of the Mastermind Local in Southampton and looked at what they'd achieved and made the decision that having the support of other people, people we could go and speak to and just hook up and have a coffee was definitely one of the reasons I was very keen to go on it.
Excellent. Okay,
Yeah,
that's great. Andy, thanks so much. Thank you for sharing.
You're
A round of
welcome.
applause, please. Thank you very
Thank
much. That's great. Thank you, Andy. Cheers. Hey, it's Simon here. I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this inspirational case study. I'm sure you got a huge amount out of it. And if you want to learn more about how you can use this incredible strategy, I've prepared 2-hour on-demand online training for you completely free of charge, teach you what you need to know to be a successful HMO investor and landlord. All you have to do is look in the description below this video, click on the link and register to get access to that free training. I suggest you do it right now.